We have all undergone disrupted thinking because of our disrupted society due to the pandemic. But many of us hope we don't go back to business as usual as we go back to school. Thought leader Eric Sheninger has a challenge for us today about what we can learn from the pandemic and the opportunities we have to use disruptive thinking in the classroom for the good of our students. And check out Eric's new book, Disruptive Thinking in Our Classrooms.
Welcome to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast, hosted by author, educator, speaker, and mom, the Cool Cat teacher, Vicki Davis.
This episode is brought to you by the Stone Soup Leadership Institute. For 20 years, the Institute has developed leadership training and educational tools like Stone Soup for a Sustainable World, life-changing stories of young heroes, to empower the next generation of multicultural leaders. Stay tuned at the end of the show to learn more about this and an awesome student leadership summit to be held this summer. Today we're talking with Eric Sheninger. He's an associate partner with the International Center for Leadership in Education. Now, Eric, you have a new book coming out about disruptive thinking in the classroom. And what kind of lessons have we learned from the pandemic that can help us move forward with this kind of thinking in the classroom? And, I think the other question is it good to disrupt thinking in the classroom?
Vicki, it's interesting. I think, when we look at the pandemic, let's try to forget the challenges and let's really look at the opportunities. And I think the golden opportunity is to move away from that's the way we've always done it. As we look at not only the pandemic and how things are changing, but the fourth industrial revolution, we have to understand that the world is always and will continue to be in a constant state of flux. So if we want to disrupt thinking and prepare kids to thrive in a rapidly changing world, we need to ensure that our instruction, what the teacher does, impacts learning, what the kids do, and they really develop these core competencies such as critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, not new, but what about time management, remote collaboration, self-regulation, and emotional intelligence? So I think that in addition to that, really thinking about how we use time in our classrooms.
Now, you talk about also quite a bit about empathy. Why is empathy important as we move forward?
I think when we look at empathy and we really look at equity and empathy, I think, are intertwined. We want to really put ourselves in the shoes of those who we serve. We serve children. We're administrators, we serve teachers. And I think by looking through an empathetic lens, it allows us to have a more of a firsthand view of how we would want to learn or how we would want to be treated. And in a sense, that helps us to better reflect on how our methodologies are more geared for those that we serve, as opposed to us as the adults.
So administrators are going back into the classroom, and you are an amazing administrator. I was at your school before you moved into thought leadership and traveling the world, I guess before the pandemic, huh? But I know you'll start traveling again. So as administrators move back and bring everyone back, if you were an administrator today, what are some of the things you would talk to your teachers about to go ahead and say, okay, we're not going to go back to business as usual? What would you say?
Well, I think I would first say, take a deep breath, pat yourself on the shoulder, and show yourself some self-gratitude for the amazing work that you've done. And I think then we also have to understand that, we cannot do it all ourselves. So the first thing I would say is to empower teachers to advocate for what they need to be successful. Success could be support. Success could be release time for professional learning. Success could be just providing more targeted, practical, specific feedback. And I would really hope that it would be a dialogue as to the culture that they want to co-create with their learners. I always refer to this as a clean slate moment. I think that pandemic, for all the hardships, has presented us all with a clean slate moment to really, whether you want to say re-envision, reinvent, reimagine, I don't care what word you use. But the only way that we're going to achieve success if it is a collaborative venture, and that really, we talk a lot about student voice, which is very important, but we have to honor educator voice because there's still a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And you don't want to just have people see, up, here we go again. We're going back to the way we always did things. But I also think emphasizing all of the amazing practices that teachers put into place successfully from the onset of the pandemic, even up to current time.
Well, teachers, what they're going to say about the clean slate, right? We got a test in April. And some people, I couldn't imagine being out of school since last March. And this is not my scenario, but I know teachers in this scenario, being out of school since last March, going back for a week, having some kids you have not seen, like that haven't had their camera on, and you have not seen until they walk into your class, and then you have to sit down and test them.
Yeah, and I wish I had the silver bullet answer for that, Vicky, because I think that is something that wears on our minds. And I always look at it this way, and I think that's the whole premise of disruptive thinking, is if we really look at our learners and understand that our goal is to challenge them to think. And that challenge will look different for each learner. We also want to make sure as we're challenging them to think, they're applying it in relevant and meaningful ways. But if we really emphasize the tenets of cognitive flexibility and we push our learners, we provide that positive reinforcement, that targeted feedback. And if we're doing that in alignment to the standards and we're using the means to really combine formative and summative assessments that have value and meaning, then we can prepare them for those assessments. We should not fear assessment, and we should not let it drive what we do, because when it's all said and done, if we, again, are challenging our kids through scaffolded questions, scaffolded tasks, moving to personalization where all kids get what they need, when they need it, where they need it, then the test piece will fall into place. Do we need other supports? Of course we do. But teachers have to have the confidence in their unique ability to get kids to where they need to be.
So, Eric, as we think about what needs to happen, what things do we need to not bring back that just need to go away, and we say that's past and it needs to stay in the past?
Yeah, and I think we have to look at sort of the four drivers that I emphasize in the book. Is, we have to understand that disruptive change is the new normal. Going backwards means we learned nothing from the pandemic. We also have to understand that comfort is the enemy of growth. We can ill afford to become complacent and think about, I'm going to go back to the way we did it because it worked well. Well, in many cases, it did not. We have to understand that learning is a process. It's not an event. And we also have to understand that these outlier practices play a huge role in development. And by outlier practices, looking at how we can use homework more effectively if we do it all. Thinking about how we grade in ways that's more about learning than an I gotcha. Looking at professional learning as opposed to professional development. So all those aspects are to keep us from resisting the temptation to do what we've always done.
So, Eric, you head back out on the road. At some point, you have face-to-face conferences and you're back on the stage. What's the first thing you're going to tell educators?
Well, fortunate for me, I just got off of 4 straight weeks in schools, in classrooms all over the country. And the first thing that I say and tell them is thank you, and you've done an amazing job. Don't let anyone tell you that you have failed or that there's all this learning loss, because you want to know something? You continue to build the plane and fly at the same time. I always say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I make a point to build them up when I see their practices in action, because it's their service. It's service from teachers like you, Vicky, that have kept this going and have really put a explanation point on why education is the most noble profession. Thank you.
I needed that. It was today was a challenge. I'm Zooming and teaching a class, and there's been a lot of challenges. And I think that in the eagerness to change and reinvent education, do you think some folks are forgetting to stop a moment and not necessarily celebrate, because it's hard to celebrate right now, but to say thank you? Do you think that our world is so eager to go back to quote normal that they forget what teachers and students, there's a lot of heroic students out there too who have really overcome a lot to learn.
Resilience, I think, is a key word that we've seen from students, teachers, and administrators. And if we were not part of a resilient profession, I don't know where we would be today.
So as we move forward, I know your book comes out May 1st. Give us the elevator pitch, which you've already done sort of in this session, but I have reviewed the book. I've read the book. It's an excellent book. I love how, and you didn't pay me to say this, I love all of the different research-based models that you pull into the book, the charts. I'm a big chart person. The charts, the graphs, the things that help us understand the research, and then relating it to what needs to happen in the classroom. So I love that. What is your thought when you're talking to administrators and leaders about your book?
Yeah, it's so hard when you think of an elevator pitch. But, I think, the whole idea is to empower learners to think disruptively in classrooms and schools. The world's changed and it's difficult to predict. And regardless of the forces at hand, educators play a pivotal role in preparing students for success now and in the future. My book is an attempt to make a compelling case that the best way to do this is to create a disruptive thinking in the classroom and beyond. And I think the best part, Vicki, is I could never have written this book if it wasn't for the thousands of classrooms that I visited in the last year and a half. And I really, in my sort of acknowledgement section, I've listed every single district that I've had the honor of working with, because without them, I wouldn't be able to show how realistic it is to create a disruptive thinking classroom or school culture. So that's my elevator pitch. My elevator pitch is basically, this is a synopsis of what actual teachers are implementing in classrooms across all different socio-demographic groups right now and finding success.
Well, thank you, Eric, and look forward to letting lots of folks read this book and be exposed to this topic. Thank you.
My pleasure, Vicki.
Hey everyone, the Stone Soup Leadership Institute would like to invite you and your students to be delegates at the 17th Youth Leadership Summit for Sustainability from June 21st through 25th, featuring inspiring speakers from their new book, Stone Soup for a Sustainable World, Life-Changing Stories of Young Heroes. Teacher orientation is in May to use the companion education curriculum. At the culmination of the summit, you will be guests at the world's largest book signing. In honor of Earth Day, the Institute is offering you a pre-order link on Amazon to buy the book at a discounted rate. Do you know any students who are passionate about sustainability? Well, now until May 6th, just go to coolcatteacher.com/apply. That is coolcatteacher.com/apply and apply now.
If you enjoyed today's 10-Minute Teacher podcast, why not subscribe on iTunes? You can also catch up with Vicki on Twitter at CoolCatTeacher or level up and learn with her blogs and free resources at coolcatteacher.com. Thanks for listening.